Hello and welcome to the first book haul of 2024. If you're new to my channel, I usually do these quarterly. I find that it helps me pay attention to what's coming into my library and whether I'm reading the things that I'm buying. So I usually will do a little brief overview of the stats for my own TBR, and then we'll launch into the books that I've actually acquired. So for this particular quarter, for January to March of 2024, I started with my TBR at 381 books, and my TBR is ending at 393. So it has gone up a little bit, but most of the books that I bought, I have plans to read in the very near future, and this actually isn't as much growth as I was worried it might be, as I've had in previous quarters. So I'm actually really happy with this, and my buying is definitely slowing down from where it was last year. So I feel like this is still forward progress, even if it looks like the number is going up. So I'm still happy there. All the books I bought this quarter were physical books, and so I've divided them into three sections. The first section is going to be books that I bought for school purposes. The second section is going to be books that I pre-ordered, and then the third section is books that I bought on a whim. And I feel like that just is going to divide things up real nicely. So this first set of books is stuff that I bought for school. I have 4 books here. I've read half of them, and the other 2 I will hopefully be reading in the near future, or one of them I know I will be. So I've got The History of Mary Prince by Mary Prince, which is a slave narrative that I read for Class on the Search for Happiness, which we've been talking about how changing philosophies of happiness have helped to create the foundation of early abolitionist work. So that was the reason that we were reading this. And then we also read The History of Rasselas, Prince of Abyssinia, for the same class, which is about a prince who lives in a place called the Happy Valley, but he's really unhappy there, and he escapes and goes on like a whole search to figure out what happiness is. This was an interesting, kind of weird read. The writing is kind of dense, but I had a lot of fun reading this, and it's just kind of weird, and had a good time with it. Then the 2 that I haven't read are, first up, Zomfam by Kamala Mackerel. This is a poetry collection that I will be reading imminently. I'm reading this next week for class. Actually, we won't have class next week, but we're attending a talk that the author is giving on campus, so that's going to be really cool. I'm really looking forward to that. And then the other one that I have here that I've not read is actually a bind-up of 2 books by Mary Wollstonecraft. So it's Mary, a Fiction, and also The Wrongs of Woman, or Maria. And this one I bought because I was planning to write a paper on The Wrongs of Woman, but I ended up scrapping that plan entirely and going a different direction for my final project because of time constraints and also just like a complete lack of inspiration, where the other project, I had an idea, I was really excited about it. So I ended up just kind of going a different direction. I'm not sure when I'll actually get to this one, but I am curious to read this because my professor who recommended this to me said that she feels like The Wrongs of Woman will really tie in interesting ways to my existing interests in like criminal justice. So I am excited to read this. I'm just not sure when I'm going to be able to prioritize it. So next up, I have my stack of pre-orders. These were all 2024 pre-orders that I have not read yet, mostly. I've read a couple of them. I should say that. I should rephrase that. I've read a couple of them. But the first one I haven't read. We have The Mysterious Case of the Alberton Angels by Janice Hallett. I was very excited for this one. I've read a couple of other books from Janice Hallett and loved both of them. So I've read The Appeal and The Christmas Appeal, and I have an arc of the Twyford Code that I haven't finished yet. But that was one I felt like I needed to restart because it had been a long time since I picked it up. But this one is a mixed media mystery about a cult, and that sounds super interesting to me. I don't often see mixed media mysteries that aren't about a murder mystery, so I'm really interested to see what directions this one's gonna go. Then I have What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher, which, first of all, the dust jacket's coming off of it, but also I have actually read this one. I read this in March, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really like this as a follow-up to Moves the Dead. I didn't like it quite as much, but I still think it's really good. I've also already read The Woods All Black. You might notice these aren't in order. It's because I dropped everything on the floor and couldn't be bothered to put everything back in order again. But The Woods All Black by Lee Mantello, which is a trans romance horror book set in 1920s Appalachia, following a nurse named Leslie, and he's sent to like vaccinate people and help with childbirth and those kinds of things in a small town where things turn out to be remarkably hostile towards him. I really enjoyed this. This book had me in a chokehold. I had to read it like immediately as soon as it came into my house, and I'm really looking forward now to going back and reading Summer Sons. Then I got the Evernight book for the first quarter, which was The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland, which is a witchy book. This is following 3 women, one of whom is the sister of a girl who was murdered by a serial killer. One of them is a girl who has accidentally cursed herself and she's like rotting or something like that and has like necrotic energy coming off her. And then the third girl is a curse writer. She helps other women by writing curses for them to protect them from the men that have wronged them, and they get tangled up together as they're investigating this serial killer that is rampaging through the area. And then, whoo, almost dropped it. Then I've got The Last Blood Carver by Vanessa Lee, which is a YA fantasy that just sounds super interesting. It's got a kind of medical-based magic system where the main character is a blood carver and can alter human biology with just a touch, and she gets pulled into a murder investigation after she's captured and sold to a wealthy family who want her to, like, heal the person who is the last living witness to the patriarch's murder. Sounds super fun, and I love a good, like, medical aspect to a book, so I'm very curious to see how that magic system is going to work. Then we've got The Book of Isle Rien by Martha Wells, which is a bind-up of 2 books set in the same universe. I don't know much about either book. Also, this is like the floppiest paperback I've ever seen in my life. It's quite hard to hold it up, actually, because it just wants to flop. But I've read and loved several other books from Martha Wells, mostly the Murderbot books, actually solely the Murderbot books so far, and I'm just really curious to see what her fantasy books are like, and I'm really looking forward to both of these stories because they both sound really fun. And then the last of my pre-orders for this quarter was The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the conclusion to the Indian Lake trilogy, and I have not yet read the first book, so I am planning a vlog where I read the whole series over the summer. I think that the summer is going to be a perfect time for reading some slashers, so that's the plan I have running for that, and the reason that I haven't read it yet. Also because this came out at the very tail end of March, so it's only just arrived, and again, I haven't read the first book, so I can't read this one yet, but that is coming hopefully in like June or July. This final stack is just books that I bought on a whim for various purposes. A couple of these were for projects, some of them were just things that I was excited for, and the first one I have here is actually my most recent purchase, which is Critical Hit: Writers Playing Video Games, which I'm currently reading because it's going to be useful for a project I'm working on for one of my classes at the moment. But this one is a series of essays written by various authors about their experiences playing video games and the ways that video games have like made them think about things differently or influenced some aspect of their life. Like the first story is about chronic illness and is about the pandemic, and it's talking about those topics through also a discussion of The Last of Us. I'm currently reading the second essay, which is about grief and the author using video games as a part of their grieving process in the wake of their father's death. So I'm just very interested to see what all of these essays are like. I am really enjoying it so far, and I'm excited that it's going to work for this project that I'm working on, so that worked out like perfectly for me. Next, I have a book I bought for a project, which was a horror manga reading taste test thing, and this was Killing Stalking Volume 1. Didn't love this, but I did successfully finish that project, so I was very proud of myself for that one, and that is going to be linked, so if you want to go check out my thoughts kind of in depth on this book, you can go do that. But yeah, I bought this for a horror manga taste test video and did successfully complete that, so that was exciting. Then I have a couple more issues of manga. I have volumes, not issues. So I have Way of the House Husband Volume 6 and Phantom Tales of the Night Volume 2. I've been reading Way of the House Husband for I think about a year now, possibly longer. I really enjoy this series. It's just kind of my like comfort pick-me-up kind of a series. And then Phantom Tales of the Night, I read the first book for that manga taste test, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm excited to continue on with that series. Then I've got The Blighted Stars by Megan E. O'Keefe, which is a sci-fi story that I believe has a bit of a romance subplot, but it's about these two people who are kind of mortal enemies, and they end up trapped, or stranded rather, together on an alien planet and need to survive. I think it sounds so cool. I've heard there's like some cool technology going on. I think there's some politics, and I just think it's going to be a really great read because I'm looking for more like sci-fi and fantasy with a good romance subplot, because I found that that's kind of my favorite kind of romance, is where it's like a subplot in a fantasy or sci-fi story. So really excited to be picking this one up, and I'm hoping to read it in April. And now finally, the last 3 books I have here are all ones that I bought while I was on a shopping trip with my mom. We went and just spent like a day kind of shopping locally downtown. We went to my favorite indie bookstore and I picked up 3 books and was clearly in a mystery mood because they're all mysteries. So first up, I picked up All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby, and I'm so excited to read this. I've heard nothing but good things, and I've been wanting to try one of his books for a while now, and this one has the premise I think I'm the most excited for. And then the other 2 are kind of meta humorous murder mysteries, because I got Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, which I've been seeing tons of good reviews for lately. I'm very excited to dive into this one. And then also I got Station Eternity by Mur Lafferty, which is also a kind of meta funny murder mystery. So this one is like the narrator telling us about a murder that happened in his family, but everyone in his family has killed someone, and there's lots of like fourth wall breaking and kind of playing with the tropes of a mystery story. And then this one is about a woman who is an amateur detective, but she doesn't want to be. People just keep dying around her, and she gets kind of sucked into the investigations, and she's real tired of that, so she tries to escape to a space station, and that doesn't go well for her. People show up, people start dying, and she is once again drawn into a mystery. Just sounds like so much fun. There's one more book to mention here, although I didn't buy it myself. On that shopping trip with my mom, she picked up the Kamigawa Food Detectives, which is the first book in a series, and she bought this one because she looked at it, and then I also picked it up and looked at it, and so she decided to buy it so that we could both read it. So she's currently reading it, and I know it's probably going to end up on my shelf once she's done reading it, because then I'll read it after her. But I did want to mention that because it sounds super fun. It's got a super cute cover. It's about a father-daughter duo who run a restaurant, and they're able to recreate meals from people's pasts and give them that like kind of sense of nostalgia and like take them back to that moment in their life. And it just sounds like it's going to be super heartwarming and super cute, and I'm very excited about it. So those are all of the books that I have acquired in the first 3 months of 2024. I'm feeling pretty good about it. There are a lot of things there that I have plans to read imminently, or things that I'm just kind of generally excited for that I anticipate I'll be picking up very soon, and I feel like it's a really great stack. So I'm totally fine with these books coming into my library at this point, and I'm also excited that it looks like my growth of my library is slowing a lot. So I'm hopeful that next quarter, once I'm not doing school and I have a little more free time, that will start to reverse and I'll be reading down my own TBR instead of adding to it. So that is the hope going forward, but that's also all I have for you today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.